All right, so we'll just start with say and spell your name, ironically enough.
Say and spell.
Yes.
Okay, Julie, Julie, Fox, Fox. But you have to know my maiden name because it's a big local maiden name.
Okay.
Picard, P-I-C-A-R-D.
So any relation, of course?
The Picard Center was, Cecil Picard was a cousin of my father's.
Okay.
So the Picards in Maurice, that's where I came from.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I know he has a huge impact on education. So did he play any role as to your education track?
No. Like I said, my father and he were cousins, so it was not a very, that was close. Not in the immediate family. Sure. And I just ended up, through my interest in the arts, being in education.
Okay, fair enough. I just had to ask the natural question.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Milton. My parents built a house along the river in Milton when I was 5. Oh, yeah. And I had the benefit of being babysat or raised, I want to really actually mean, by my father's mother. Sure. And so she didn't speak English when my parents got married. Yeah. So, and my mother didn't speak French. Oh, wow. And I was the oldest of 7. Yeah. So she was our babysitter, so I got to learn French and English simultaneously. Oh, wow, yeah. She was born in 1900.
Nice. So do you still speak French?
I understand it.
Sure.
If I'm in France, in immersion, I can speak it. Or if I worked at a French immersion school, but it's not. My husband's a Yankee, so
can't really talk to him.
No,
with it.
No.
Fair enough. So how else was it like growing up in Milton? I know it's a smaller town, and
wonderful. You know everybody. You can ride your bike to the store. Your school's like you can walk to school. You have the river. You have a close-knit community. A lot of Cajun people, a lot of people that, you didn't have people moving to Milton back in the old days. They just, although my parents ironically found property and built there, but it was kind of just a little tiny isolated town. So
still kind of is.
It really kind of is. It really kind of is. But if you'd see the campus of the school they're building there now, you would think they're building a college, a university, right in Milton.
Right.
It's huge. So the numbers of kids going there, it's totally different.
But. Yeah, definitely. I know it's a great district too.
Yeah.
So where did life take you after Milton?
Well, interest in being an artist was always there, and so I went on to UL and graduated with a bachelor's degree in fine arts and focusing in sculpture. Went on to accept an assistantship and a teaching position simultaneously doing graduate school at Indiana University in sculpture, Indiana University in Bloomington.
Gotcha.
Another small town,
but
got to see there is life outside of Louisiana.
So what did you think of that life outside of Louisiana?
I remember my first impression being in the grocery store, standing in line in Bloomington, and I hear the woman in front of me say, "I'm hungry. I would like a hunk of meat and a tater." And I was like, oh my goodness, where am I?
Right.
Well, down here you'd hear a link of boudin and some French bread.
Yeah, exactly. A gumbo or crawfish.
So it was really, really nice to get away and, see other sides, other ways of doing things, and not just in Bloomington, but through being able to work and study in New York and D.C. and Seattle and San Diego and just getting out of town, getting out of your small town is such an education.
Definitely a good way quick and easy way to grow. Yeah.
Very.
I say easy, but not easy.
Very.
Definitely. So then how did you end up back here would be the natural question.
Well, after graduate school, being a penniless student, no longer,
Sure.
holding the assistantship, and actually I didn't even finish that graduate degree. Came back, Mom, Dad, can I move back in? Which they were all for, and ended up working here, and applied and became Lafayette Parish's first artist in residence. And so got back into the arts here, in the school system,
Sure.
through the ACA. Back then it was the Acadiana Arts Council. But I was artist in schools, artist in residence, and so just began, as most artists do, a second line of work that really pays the bills,
Right.
because the fine arts market is,
Yeah, it's hard
limited.
here.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, definitely. Is it as hard here as it is in other places, or is it just hard everywhere?
I think it's hard everywhere, but I think it's almost harder here because as a culture, we're not so much focused on the visual arts as we are on music, food, dance.
Sure.
So our visual arts and our theater or theatrical arts suffer a little, in terms of being as prevalent, predominant,
Sure.
popular.
Sure.
So I think it's probably more so. But on the other hand, our culture is so strong and it's so unique and it's so different. I think our other art forms like theater and visual arts are gaining strength.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely. Do you think that there are certain things that would help gain momentum with those fields, or is it that those things are just incorporated in our culture, so people get inspired by our culture to do those things?
I think one thing that would certainly help, in my background and experience working in the school system, both private and public, would be increased presence of all of the arts in our schools. No child should be in a school that does not have visual art, that does not have music, that does not have theater, that doesn't have dance.
Right.
I think all of the arts are essential to education, to a child's growth and development, and by including them in your school system, you are also building in the future market for those commodities, those professions, those practices that become a person's lifelong work.
Definitely. Let's talk about, speaking of children and the future, whenever you were growing up, did you have any mentors in your life? Or
I didn't have any of the arts until I was in high school. But I always drew and painted. I can't say that I had a mentor, but I always had art supplies, so I guess my parents indulged that. I had wanted to learn the guitar. They got me lessons. I look back on that as the oldest child of 7 children, and my father worked in construction. He built houses and furniture, and my mother was an accountant. I don't imagine there was any place in that budget for that money that went toward those lessons. So I have to credit my mother and my father.
Absolutely, to indulge you, as you said. I like
exactly.
that. That's great. I mean, that's where that's the
Exactly.
essence of creativity is.
Exactly. It had to be nurtured.
Yeah.
And your parents are the first to nurture. Or some people, it works, they're opposed by their parents' wishes, or their wishes are opposed by their parents, and they struggle against what their parents want. You know, we want you to be a lawyer. No, I'm an artist.
Right. That fuels them too.
Yeah.
So tell me how you first got involved with AOC.
With AOC, well, I'm a teaching artist through the Acadiana Center for the Arts. And so I do all kinds of training. I do professional development workshops for teachers. I work with a national service provider called Visual Thinking Strategies. I'm a trainer for them, a local trainer. But through the Acadiana Center for the Arts, as a teaching artist, I go into classrooms, and one of the things I really like to do is plan a project with a teacher. And so the way this happened, a teacher in the gifted program in the district contacted Bree at the Arts Council, and she said, she just threw it out there, this teacher at Broadmoor is interested in stop motion animation. Is there anybody out there who knows anything about it or would be willing to try it?
Sure.
So I at first I went, no, I'm not, no. And then I went, why not? Why not? Okay, I know enough about how stop motion animation is done to be game for this. And what I don't know, I can find out. And so immediately started collaborating with the teacher, Sarah Jones at Broadmoor Elementary, and talking. And I guess she knew that there were these packs that we could rent and, not rent, but,
Sure.
you know,
Use, yeah.
book, reserve, and people that could come in and help. And so I went in with her, and we worked for probably over a month on getting their stories done. You know, some of these children were like in first grade, and so their story just had like, an elephant smashes a person, that's their story, you know. So we had to help them develop. We did storyboards. I sat with each child and let's make your story have a logical sequence of events that we can, you know, that will tell a story that we can film.
Yeah.
And so
We call that pre-production.
pre-production.
So you got pre-production.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did the pre-production parts along with the teacher, and that was a blast, getting the kids to, you know, flesh out their ideas. And okay, you have this happen. Well, what was that middle step that you know, the guy fell off the mountain? Well, you never showed him on the mountain. You know, so let's go back and retrace all that.
Yeah.
So, and then when we were all ready to film, that's when we got AOC booked and down there and ready to go.
Awesome. So perfectly natural way to do it, yeah. So what was your first impression of AOC?
Oh, well, you've got lovely people, the friendliest, easiest to work with people. They're laid back, they're really knowledgeable, but their personalities, I think, is what shone for me in the classroom. Their patience with the students and the teachers, us, and you know, I'm sure a lot of the ignorant questions we ask, but they're just personalities, just shine.
Definitely. Yeah, we do have some very good instructors and staff people here who have the expertise and the patience, like you said.
Very much.
What surprised you most about working with AOC, or about AOC in general?
How much equipment and information and knowledge and expertise that is so easily accessible. How much the wealth that is here, that is available to any teacher or individual to just take part in.
Definitely, take part. That's a good way to put it, definitely. What is your dream project to work on or to produce?
Well, I definitely want to do some more stop motion animation. I can't say that I have a dream project. I just know that I want to continue doing this right now. I have a grant proposal that's in the hopper. I'm not sure if it's been funded, but there are a couple of 3 teachers that just heard about what I did at Broadmoor that want to do something similar. And my name is on their project. I'm not sure. I haven't read the narrative.
Fair enough.
But I know that we want to do something with stop motion animation. So I'm just looking for the next
Yeah.
step
Sure.
in that.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun that you found stop motion as a teacher, and you can bring it to the students. It's usually the other way around sometimes.
Yes.
Very cool. So,
And there's a primitiveness about stop motion that, you know, it's so intimidating. You see all these slickly produced, overproduced, if you will, things. And I'm not discounting any of that, but for children and telling simple stories, stop motion animation is so beautiful and primitive.
Yeah, and it's almost natural to them to think of things like that. You know,
It's totally, they can think in terms of one frame at a time.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun to watch. We take it on the road, if you will, all the time, and it never fails. I mean, the kids have a blast, and they don't need us. We show them for 30 seconds how to do it, and they're like, okay, move. I want to do it.
And then we did paper collage
Yeah.
in the pre-production. Those were our sets and our characters. And so that was the art part of it.
Sure.
Was also super fun,
Yeah.
super easy. They didn't have to be a super great
Right.
artist
Right.
in order to realize some really beautiful effects with in their sets and characters.
Definitely. I like it. I like it. What are you reading right now?
I'm reading Whoever Tells the Best Story Wins. I don't know the author, and it's nonfiction.
Yeah.
It's about story in
I already like the title. Yeah.
and life in your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great title. I mean, already
Yeah.
I'm interested. Yeah. So, are you a nonfiction reader, or do you read everything? Or?
I read everything, but I like to read a lot of nonfiction. Next on my list is a book I already have by David Brooks, The Human Animal, because the more I reflect on reading that book, it's about how actually as humans we are a species of animal, and we kind of try to divorce this animal body from our brains, and so we ignore things about ourselves that are purely animal, and I'm unfortunately reflecting on that a lot with the political situations, things that are happening in politics and struggles around the country that I think that book speaks to.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So, if you had one playlist for the rest of your life, which artists and bands would be on it? Doesn't have to just be one. Like, who's on your playlist? Who
on my playlist?
Your must-have list.
Miriam Makeba. I listen to her regularly. Alan Toussaint. Wynton Marsalis. Paul Desmond. But I have all kinds of music. I have classical, I have jazz, but that's just what I'm listening to right now.
Sure, fair enough. So what's in your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So during your childhood, what were your favorite books or movies or movie stars, singers, anything that you just kind of gravitated toward and remember?
I guess I think back to just the folk era in high school when everybody was listening to heavy metal bands. I was listening to Joni Mitchell and Carole King and people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Movie star? Movie stars.
Yeah.
Maybe certain movies, but I'm not a person that is a fanatic about one style or one genre or one person. I mean, that's too narrow a perspective, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
More of an umbrella person.
I like it. Let's see. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
An artist.
Always. You
all I
always
did
knew.
was draw, and
Yeah. So you said sculpture and drawing, or is there a style that personifies you more than anything, or that you are most comfortable doing?
I was, I think because of my influence of the professors at UL, I gravitated toward hand building in ceramics, but not throwing pots, but making ceramic sculpture.
Sure.
And I did a lot of these ginormous organic forms that were too big to be fired. And don't ask me why. You know, as a student, you can't explain why you go on and you're driven to build things that you can't keep, you can't fire, you can't sell.
Right.
You know, I guess that's the beauty of youth
Yeah.
and passion when you're young. It doesn't have to be practical. It doesn't have to lead you anywhere. It doesn't have to make you any money. And your parents keep like, you know, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
But you just somehow persist.
Okay. So that's still the style that.
Well, I, as a style now, again, I'm not just one. It's not just one style.
Okay.
It's not just one style.
Yeah.
But what I ended up doing after being in graduate school was combining like historical ceramic forms from like ancient China with like alligator skin texture that I would impose. And so I would make these pseudo historical forms with an Akkadian or Cajun reference.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Yeah, it's different. What's your superpower?
My superpower is the ability to be positive.
That's a good one.
And it's also the thing I work on the hardest, but I think it is my superpower.
Yeah. Has it always been your superpower?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The ability to be positive and to be diplomatic and also stubborn and passionate, but not being a diva about things, finding a way to get what I want to achieve done in a way that is as smoothly accomplished as possible. And I know there are people who would say, that's not been my experience with her, but
you said it's the thing you work on the hardest.
yes.
I think all of those are also very indicative of teachers. I mean, all of those words, because I mean,
You think?
teachers have to be stubborn at some point to, to keep with it, if nothing else.
You
So
do.
I think those
You
are
do.
very.
And you have to want to parent the entire world.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we were doing this workshop, this just a fun exercise for all the artists in the PACE artist workshop. And you're supposed to just choose these images and put them together and then randomly select from within what you, the larger selection of things that you've chosen. Flip one over and start explaining, just starting I am. And it was so funny because the image that I chose, I think when I chose the image, I had in mind my daughter-in-law and my new grandson. But when I put it in terms of myself, I went, I'm nurturing and mothering to the whole world. I mean, as a teacher.
Yeah.
And the oldest of 7 children in my family. It's just,
Can't help it.
like my husband said, natural born administrator. But it's not just administration, because you can't simply tell people what to do.
Right.
That's not how it works.
No. So, what is your spirit animal and why?
I think a horse.
Yeah, why is that? Just like them.
Ride away.
Yeah.
Be free.
I like it, yeah, it's true. I'm going back in my head. So, as an artist, I know this is probably an impossible question, and it's probably a silly question, but do you have a piece of art that is your favorite? Is that even possible to do, or is it like naming your favorite song, which is very impossible?
I do have a favorite piece of art,
Okay.
but I think it's one that nobody knows of because it's a piece that I did.
Okay.
But my husband is also an artist, and
Mm-hmm.
so we, being together for almost 40 years, we've told each other, that's your masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
That piece
Sure.
of yours
Sure.
has in it everything that you are trying to say in your work.
Wow.
And we've told each other that.
Yeah.
And so now I know which is my favorite
Yeah.
because he told me.
Yeah. I was gonna say, do you agree with him?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Because if I didn't, I would tell him.
Fair
But,
enough.
yeah.
So, is it hard to be married to another artist then? Because
Very
I was
hard.
gonna say I don't know a lot
It's
of artists that are married.
Very
to
hard.
artists. In a good way, I'm sure. If you've made it 40 years, I'm just
Yeah.
It's a
Especially to my husband, David Fox. He is the person who did, he's known in the area.
Oh, okay.
He did the original sculpture of the pelicans.
Oh, really?
That is all around
the
town.
public art. Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's also Asperger's. And you can keep this in the clip because he just came home from a workshop,
Yeah.
a special ed workshop, and he goes, you know how you've always said I'm on the spectrum? Yeah. He said, you're right. I am. I said, I know.
Well, yeah,
I told you 30 years ago you were Asperger's. Anyway, so
Yeah.
it is really hard being
Yeah.
married to him, but he's brilliant and interesting, and there's never a
Yeah.
dull moment.
I was
So.
gonna say, and I mean, what better critic than someone who you love? I guess, or maybe it's the worst critic. I don't know. That's interesting.
It's the best because it's the
It is.
person you admire and respect the
It's true.
most,
That's true.
which I hope is what everybody has in their spouse.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Do you ever create together?
We have created together on many, many, many occasions. We did, remember when the dinosaurs came to the Cajun Dome? We did the sets.
Oh wow, I did not know that. Okay.
I've worked with him,
Yeah.
the giant crawfish sculpture that's off the interstate at the Scott exit.
Really?
That was his
Yeah.
his in name,
Sure.
mine in
Very-
labor as well. I mean, we've worked together all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
We kind of had to stop working together when we were doing commercial jobs, and we did this job where we're on 3 sets of scaffolding on Jefferson Street, and he's like, grab that, and I'm like, no.
On scaffolding.
So, not a good place to fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say the true test of marriage on a scaffolding.
Yes, small,
Oh no,
narrow, windy, raining.
you survived. That's all that matters.
We lived
both of
to
you
laugh
survived.
about it.
Hey, that's the most important part, right? You can laugh about it now.
You live to laugh about
That's
it, yeah.
What's one thing about you that few people know, however trivial?
Oh, jeez. I don't know. That's
Yeah. One guy said he likes to sing the female parts to, like Britney Spears. It cracked me up. Yeah.
that is hilarious.
Yeah.
That
Just
is hilarious.
random
Oh, that
things,
just totally esoteric thing.
Yeah. It's funny. What achievement are you most proud of?
I am most proud of a documentary that was produced about the last U.S. Department of Education funded grant project that I did in the Lafayette Parish School System, Art Time in Acadiana. I'm most proud of that because it speaks to the impact that the project had on the 5 schools that we ended up implementing in with visual thinking strategies and with arts integration, and really promotes the idea that teaching and learning in the arts and through the arts is so powerful. And it's the way education needs to move toward.
Sure. So this is going to be an interesting question to hear the answer from an artist, but we've been asking people what inspires you, and it, maybe not just as an artist, but as a human. What inspires you?
I would have to say, because I'm involved in the arts, what inspires me is enabling people to understand that we are all artists, that we all have different art forms, but we all have the potential to be creative, and it inspires me that through education we can be, that can be nurtured about us all. Instead of being crushed out of us, it needs to be nurtured. And because it's such a powerful tool that we have that is not emphasized. What's emphasized is how well you know your multiplication tables, which that's one size fits all. That's the arts are what make us who we are as human beings, and our different creative abilities are what differentiate us as individuals. And the arts are a powerful language that we can all speak through if we are, if those abilities are nourished.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. Definitely. How would you like to be remembered?
Well, I guess, you know, when I talk to people that knew me, you know, in high school, they say, "Oh, weren't you always like in the arts? Weren't you always?"
Yeah.
As an advocate for the arts and education, I guess I would say.
Yeah. Not an artist first, but an
No.
advocate.
No, because the power is in us as a group, as a community, not as individuals.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's a great quote. One last question. Describe yourself in 3 words. Can be 3 separate words or 3 words strung together, whichever one you
I
want.
would say goofy, passionate, stubborn.
Good answers. Nice. You're done. Good job.
I think.
Yeah. You are. That's it. Last question.